So as you can see, this is the Lure 11.5 and by FeelFree, and I got it in the desert camo color. It kind of suits my personality a little bit better and my background. As you can see, I put a trolling motor on the tail, and this is the B&C Power Yak's trolling motor. Bob Hamilton, you can get in touch with him easily on the FeelFree Facebook page. He's all over that and has a lot of good stuff. And this is a really nice setup. I use this setup primarily because I can switch between the rudder and the trolling motor in about 10 minutes or less. And I can take everything off, the battery, the trolling motor, the connections, the controls, all without damaging the kayak, and again, all within about 10 minutes or so. Trolling motor comes up the left side from the back. This is actually a Minn Kota 45-pound thrust trolling motor. I added a little bit larger blade on here, which is supposedly the weed wedge, and keeps the weeds away from it. I really haven't tried it in the weedy conditions, but I know the smaller one that comes with the motor actually did catch a lot of weeds from time to time, but I try not to do too much in there. The connections are simple. There's 3 connections. I'll come back to that in a minute. Cable comes up the left side for me because I'm left-handed, or I tend to fish with my right hand. I can control the trolling motor with my left. You can see I no longer use the rudder mount or the rudder pull cleat. I don't have anything in there anymore. I'll show you how I use the rudder in a little bit. This is the box that comes with it. This controls the speed, 3 reverse and 5 forward. I did add a kill switch to it. I'll tell you about that here in a moment also. The cables run up the side, and I just leave them free again so I can pull it out if I need to. Bob talks about cutting this off. I just left it here, the end of the cables that he sent with it. I just left it here. I'm not sure if I want to cut it off or not, but they're out of the way and they're not a big problem for me. And then I use the front hatch for my battery compartment. Right now I don't have anything drilled. This just simply runs up through the battery hatch here. As you can see, there's nothing drilled in here. So as I open up the battery or the front hatch, there's the battery. The battery is the Mighty Max 35 amp hour battery. It's about a 25-pound battery and considerably lighter weight than what you would see on a typical boat, and only costs about 80 bucks as opposed to $400 or $500 for the lithium, and I'm okay with that. The way I fish, this lasts me all day. I fished out there for 6 or 7 hours at a time, and this battery was enough for me. This is a U1 size battery, so you can buy a U1 box for it to go into. This is the same box as what they would use, and the same battery that they would use in a motorized wheelchair, or a motorized wheelchair, or a little scooter, and you can use that on that. I added a 60 amp circuit breaker. This is a marine circuit breaker. The nice thing about this marine circuit breaker is it has this switch up here on top, and I just mounted it to the top of the battery box. When you flip the switch, everything is now on, and you can see that with my little gauge that I have here. This is a little gauge that just hangs out when I'm fishing, and I just let this sit on top of my sonar pod. When I'm transporting, I can turn the whole thing off, and it just shuts down the battery and all the electrical supplies, and it keeps it safe that way. This is a relay that's required for the kill switch. I'll talk more about that later. And of course, a lot of wiring. I still haven't cleaned that all up. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do that. I did replace the ends that came with the trolling motor from Bob. I cut those off, and I added a trolling motor quick disconnect that you can buy at well, up here in Wisconsin I can buy it at Fleet Farm or pretty much anywhere you find trolling motor parts for Minn Kota, and I added that so I can quick disconnect that, which is part of the taking it apart. And then with the kill switch, I have a second disconnect for the kill switch right here. So just two quick disconnects. I just unplug those both, and I can pull those completely apart, and then I can pull the battery completely out in a second all by itself. So everything else is self-contained on the battery except for the parts of the trolling motor and the two disconnects for that. And then that all just kind of goes up in front here. So I can just leave that on in front. When I turn that on, I close the hatch and I just make sure my wires are away from where the latch is. And it latches, and I can fish with a pretty much a waterproof hatch still. There it is. Works real good. Okay, from this side you can see where the wire comes in off of the controls. It comes in. What I did was I just ran it in underneath the strap for the seat, which allows me to work this either up or down because it's not underneath the seat at all. It's actually alongside the seat and underneath the strap and comes to the front. The kill switch cable just attaches to my life vest, and as always, anytime you have a kill switch, it just pulls out. Just got to make sure this is all tight. Right now I just have it with the tape on there. I haven't decided exactly how much I'm gonna attach the two, how I'm gonna attach the two, if I want to attach it any tighter than that. I'm working on that, and that's something that I'll continue to look at. The other thing with the trolling motor, and this comes with the instructions in the YouTube video that Bob Hamilton sends or gives you a link to. What I did was I had these for the rudder. I pretty much stopped using them completely. I just leave them on here for whatever reason. I can take those off here as I figure out what I'm going to do with the cable. But since I don't have the rudder use anymore, at least not with those pedals, what Bob gives us instructions for is how to remove the control arm here, so the bracket here that keeps the pedals from moving. You remove that, you run the cable through and over to the side here and through there, and so now this becomes your pedal control for the trolling motor, and you can see it moves on either side. One of the problems I had early on was if you pushed on the outside as opposed to the inside of the pedal, it really bound and it was difficult to move. I basically fixed that by using Teflon tape, putting that on. You can get that on Amazon, or just send me an email. I can give you the connection for that. But it's just Teflon tape on here. I put that on here. I got enough that if it wears out, and you can see it does wear out a little bit, you can just replace that. The other thing about the pedals is, if you're using it this way, these are not something that you put your feet on and press on them both at the same time. Obviously that puts a lot of stress on the trolling motor and your connections in the back. So just press on one, relax the other foot. When you press on the other one, relax this foot. So it just works really well. And you can use the rudder pedals the rudder the same way. So it's the same cable, the same setup, it just replaced the rudder. Now how do I do that? Well, before I get to that, here's where I put the larger clip, and you can see a larger rope to pull up the trolling motor. So as you look back here towards the trolling motor, you pull on the rope. Let me control my, and you can see it just pulls up out of the water. You release it just like you release the rudder pull, and it goes back down. Now what I did was I just simply cut this in half here, and I put a quick disconnect on here. Then I can easily disconnect there from this one, and this one has these Estes. This is the Night Eyes S-hook with the locking mechanism on here. but you disconnect it from this one. You pull this out with the trolling motor, and you can connect that to the rudder. So I just have a similar setup for the rudder, and so I use the same pole for both the rudder and the trolling motor, as opposed to using the one that was designed in there. If I take this off, I'm going to take this off by 3 points. 2 there, 1 here in the middle with a wing nut at the bottom. See the wing nut down there? And then for the cables, again, these are used for the rudder and the trolling motor. I have a smaller S-hook, again with the locking mechanism, that I can just disconnect this from the kayak, pull the trolling motor off, and reconnect this onto the rudder if I want to use the rudder. But the whole thing comes off very nicely. And that's my setup with the trolling motor. I hope that's helpful to you, and just let me know. I'm going to do another video here shortly about how I set this up for transportation and take that off, and also set it up for putting the rudder on. And have a good day. Thanks.